Of course, we talked about Rocket Sanders, the running back coming over from Arkansas to South Carolina, what he brings to the Gamecocks running back room and obviously the impact that he makes. I would still say, guys, sitting here today, that is the biggest portal addition for South Carolina to this point in the cycle. But you also added late last week, guys, Jaden McGowan, the wide receiver from Vanderbilt, a guy that, we talked about a lot going in that South Carolina Vandy game. Really surprising that he did not have a receiving touchdown in the 2023 season, but still a guy, guys, Lawrence, South Carolina. He's a hometown kid. That is where he hails from. I think someone that can come in and immediately play probably that Amarian Brown role, right? Be a speedster, and obviously you hope that his production is more so than what Amarian Brown gave you. I don't think he's a wide receiver one. I don't see that. But I do think Jaden McGowan is a positive addition, certainly can be one of your top 2 or 3 wide receivers, and is certainly a starter for you going in the 2024 season. So I like the pickup of McGowan, what he will bring to the offense. Adding another speedster. Speed is the name of the game for him. Should be a nice compliment and should be a nice weapon for Lenora Sellers at the quarterback position. Guys, I really like what Shane Beamer is doing on the defensive side of the football. Some of these defensive additions they have made, specifically defensive lineman DeAndre Jules from Pittsburgh and the edge Kyle Kennard from Georgia Tech. You start first with DeAndre Jules, guys. Had a great season this past season. His career statistics in 4 seasons for Pittsburgh. 35 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. But again, a lot of those stats, guys, came in this past season. So I think a guy that's going to provide size, he's going to provide quickness, agility in the defensive front as well. Again, can get after the quarterback, the type of player you need on your interior. And then you look at Kyle Kennard, guys, coming over from Georgia Tech. Spent 4 seasons in Atlanta, 115 total tackles, 21.5 tackles for loss, and 12.5 sacks. This was the type of player you had to go out and get, right? This was the kind of player, because we all know line of scrimmage was the issue for South Carolina, both offensively and defensively, right? And you can never have too many good pass rushers. That was something that South Carolina, I thought, lacked in 2023, and Kennard absolutely fills that void and fills a position of need for Shane Beamer and South Carolina moving forward. Those have probably been 2 of my guys' favorite additions for South Carolina. You start to shore things up on the defensive front. That's an area certainly that Travian Robertson, the defensive line coach, doing his best to improve. You also add guys over the weekend, tight end Brady Hunt coming in from Ball State. They like his athleticism. They like his speed a lot. I saw some people comparing him to Hayden Hurst, former Gamecocks tight end, which I think is a little bit aggressive, but you can see it with the skill set and what he's going to bring in, what he provides. This reminds me a lot, guys, of the Nate Adkins edition, right? Where it's a guy that comes from a lower level. Nate Adkins wasn't some first-team All-SEC guy, but he made big plays for you. He was a nice role player. He played his role in the offense. He did make some game-changing plays. Nobody will ever forget that one-handed catch in the Clemson game. I think Brady Hunt could be that type of player coming in from Ball State. You then also yesterday had defensive back Gerald Kilgore, East Tennessee State transfer. Of course, he is the brother of Jelon Kilgore. How much does Gerald Kilgore play? I have no idea, guys. I have no idea. Torian Gray's done a really good job in his tenure coaching up defensive backs coming from lower levels, whatever. But I think Kilgore, I think it's a feel-good thing. Obviously, you add him. He's the brother of Jelon. It solidifies maybe that Jelon Kilgore is going to stay at South Carolina. And as much as that stinks to say, guys, you just never know, right? So anything you can do to make Jelon Kilgore feel good, a guy who's going to be one of your leaders on the defensive side moving forward, bringing his brother in, I think was a no-brainer. Finally, guys, a big one that came up late yesterday, and it's not official yet, but it is sounding like it's going to happen. Matt Zenitz, national 24/7 sports contributor, he reported, and Hale McGranahan of the Big Spur was reporting, they are expecting that A.J. Swan, Vanderbilt quarterback, will announce his commitment here in the near future. I think for the situation that South Carolina is in, where I think most feel really confident with Lenora Sellers moving forward, that Lenora Sellers, he is QB1. He is the quarterback of the future. So Do you want to go out and get a Malik Murphy who's going to take his job or what have you? And I think you look at it this way. You want to go out and get the best possible player available. But is a guy like Malik Murphy or KJ Jefferson, are they really going to buy it to where when the coaching staff's talking about Lenoris Sellers and what they have in him, and I think South Carolina is very set on building the future of their program around him. Guys, there's just not many guys that are willing to come in and sit behind a freshman, right? A guy like Malik Murphy, the elite level player he is, he's going somewhere to be QB1. A guy like KJ Jefferson, I highly doubt is going to go anywhere to sit on the bench. You look at a guy like A.J. Swan. Is he coming in to sit the bench? Probably not. I think A.J. Swan's probably coming in to compete and try to win a starting job. But you do feel like that Lenoris Sellers more than likely should have the upper hand. But here's the thing, guys, and we talked about this, I think, early last week or a couple weeks ago, whatever. South Carolina had to boost their quarterback room. They had to add some competitive depth. I'm not saying they had to go out there and get a QB1 or get somebody who's going to take Lenoris Sellers' job, which we could spend an entire segment, by the way, on a separate issue of how it's kind of weird that people are just anointing someone as the starter when their only highlights have come against Furman and Vandy. And it's like, I would not blame Shane Beamer if he went out and got a Malik Murphy or he went and got KJ Jefferson, if he went out and added some elite level talent and some competition to the room and say, may the best man win. Because at the end of the day, who gives a damn who the starting quarterback is? The bottom line is, and it doesn't matter if it's Lenoris Sellers at quarterback or KJ Jefferson or AJ Swan, if Carolina misses a bowl game yet again next year, nobody's going to give a damn who QB1 was. It's not going to make it feel any better. With that being said, I at least think AJ Swan is a guy most people feel like, okay, he's going to provide quality depth, but he's not going to steal the starting job. And moving off of this, guys, I'm seeing a lot of people commenting and asking, where the hell are the offensive line commitments? Where are the offensive line additions from the transfer portal? I would say this, guys. Number one, the dust has not settled, right? So I think you got to continue to trust Shane Beamer, let them work, and let them operate. The other thing I think you have to keep in mind with is this, guys, and you can agree with this, disagree, whatever. I'm not exactly sure it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I have been really surprised, and I wonder if this is coming from the local media folks in Columbia, if this is just a fan thing, if this is coming from Shane Beamer himself. I am really, really surprised at the excuse making for the offensive line that I've seen from Gamecock Nation. I'm really, really surprised the amount of people who are willing to just completely write off what happened in 2023 to just purely injuries and move forward with the same exact offensive line room plus some freshmen, and they're going to feel good about that in 2024. Like, guys, did injuries play a role? Absolutely they did. But that offensive line was bad at baseline. That offensive line was bad at its healthiest. I don't think it would have mattered if you had 0 injuries in the offensive line room. The bottom line is that room needs to be improved. I think it would be a mistake for Shane Beamer and company to not add at least 2 or 3 offensive linemen who can come in, compete, fight for a starting job, and potentially be starters for you. It is not going to make anybody feel warm and fuzzy inside or feel good about things if you're going into 2024 with the same crop of guys that produced what you saw in 2023. Will they be better? Probably, because you can't be any worse. But are these guys all of a sudden going to turn to all SEC caliber players? Probably not, guys. So to all of those asking, listen, I don't know where the offensive line additions are, guys, but you got to think, you got to sit back, relax. You got to trust Shane Beamer if you're a Gamecocks fan. There's still a lot of time in the transfer portal, but certainly the time is ticking. And I do not think South Carolina, for what it's worth, I don't think the Gamecocks are done in the slightest when it comes to building and adding from the transfer portal. I think what Shane Beamer's showing you in this portal cycle, hey, South Carolina went 5-7. There was some less than stellar talent. There was some not SEC caliber talent on this roster. Out with the old, in with a new. I do not think South Carolina is done when it comes to adding talent in the transfer portal.